Yes, we can start now with the program related to Peace Research Association, and Samu Pehkonen, who has been many years active in the association and been somehow the backbone of the research journal Cosmopolis, will start with a short presentation explaining a bit what is peace research and how it has developed. So please, Samu.
Yes, thank you, Karim. I was yesterday thinking about how to continue from Mariana's splendid keynote, and the only thing I could imagine is that I try to forget that I'm giving a keynote. So this will be my keynote, and there will be some images. And Mariana was talking about the futures of peace research, and as you can see my title, so this kind of implies that I would be talking about the histories of peace research, but I still somehow think that it's the opposite. It's less about me trying to give you some kind of historical narrative of peace research, but rather trying to map out the tradition, which we were talking about yesterday, how important the traditions are. And when I was thinking about traditions, so I discovered that that we don't have a kind of common entry point into that tradition. I started 20 years ago. Those of you who are PhD students or MA students, you are entering the field. And then, of course, we have here people who are the tradition, who have made the very first entrance. Yes. So, something about peace research, I guess you are all familiar with. And I tried to find a very simple definition that at least that I'm at least giving you one. But as we will see, this becomes a bit problematic because I think it doesn't include all aspects of what I think peace research is. It also includes words that are concepts that have a different meaning and different substance in different times in different times. We have been talking yesterday about labels and categories, who are peace researchers, who are activists, and I've been trying to give a very kind of inclusive starting point. So peace research is what peace researchers do. And of course, then we could have this type of definition that peace research is what is done in peace research institutes. And I guess this is sometimes when I hear people complaining about that peace researchers are not dealing the right issues or the most important issues. So they might be just looking very narrowly to what the researchers at TAPRI, for example, are doing. But luckily, we do have in Finland a much broader community of peace researchers. If we have at TAPRI, there is only a handful of positions. It would be really pity if those were the only people who would be able to do the so-called real peace research. So for today, I was thinking about what type of approach or point of view I would take. So I had been, as Karim mentioned, so I've been quite not always active, but anyway following what happens in the journal that our association is publishing. So today I will be showing some mental maps or images based on the keywords or the most important words that I could, in a way, dig out from the articles that have been published in Cosmopolis and the Rauhan Tutkijan and Rauhan Tutkimus journal. And this is also, of course, this is very subjective. So something about my background. So I entered Tapri, it was the last century, when I was doing my master thesis in Joensuu in human geography about a conflict. And I thought that, well, Tapri would be an ideal place to conduct my research, and that really was the case. Since that, I've been working in various projects that have been related, have been based at Tapri, but I think not all of them have been like related to peace research. Not everything that I do doesn't necessarily have anything to do with peace research, and I don't want to claim that this research, for example, would be peace research. So I think this is also one thing which I learned from yesterday's discussions, that if you are activist in these peace issues or development issues, and then you have a completely different disciplinary background, so it's easy to separate them. Then you have disciplines where it is not very easy to do that type of thing. And my own disciplinary background is so various that I can, well, I hope that for example, today I can be here as a peace researcher. Next week I could be among human geographers. The week after that in communication or linguistics. And yes, so basically throughout all my academic career, so I've been also been active in the association. So this is the way how I in a way conducted. This is a very preliminary thing. So Eva Puumala and Unto Vesa published some 10 years ago a kind of bibliography of all the articles, all the texts that have been published in these journals. At that time, these articles didn't include keywords. So what I have done is that I have tried to imagine from the title of the article what it is about. Sometimes it's not possible, and certainly there might be misunderstandings. And there's also some years which are missing because I thought I have all the Cosmopolis journals in my garage, but they were not there. I don't know where they are. So I noticed that some years are missing. And then I actually, for the Cosmopolis special issue we published last year about the peace research, I did this type of word cloud thing to show, to give me and maybe the others also an impression about what type of issues we have been dealing in the journal. And the word cloud, it's really pretty, but I guess it has some problems because it doesn't put the same type of words into the same type of position in the image, in the cloud. So I tried to do this in a way that somehow the similar type of concepts and words would be located in the same part of the image. So this is the 70s version. So the bigger the font size, more occurrences there are. And if the word is in, well, you might not see very clearly, but if it's the white color So those are less. So if it's this yellow color, the same font size, so it's double the amount. And rauhantutkimus word, peace research, because I thought it's somehow interesting to see, especially that word. So I have highlighted it with red color. So the 70s, which many people refer to as the, if not yet the golden decade, so anyway the very formative moment. And it's easy to see and also very kind of understandable that the word peace research is very much there, as well is the peace education and disarmament. And because we are here, we have peace research and development studies scholars, so it's also, I have tried to locate words related to development studies, so developing countries, into the tail part of the bird. So it's very clear from the beginning, as it was told already yesterday, that the development studies and peace research and conflict research, they have a shared history. Now when we move to 80s, the image gets much more difficult to read. But the peace research, the word peace research is still there, and it's very predominant. There is a lot of discussion about the concept of peace. Peace movement or the peace activist, Rauhanliike, is mentioned in several articles, as well as is the peace education. New concepts like peace politics or peace policy is introduced. And there's a lot of research about nuclear weapons, nuclear arms, nuclear disarmament, arms race. And I guess now we are, when we conducted Karim conducted the kind of interviews with the older generation peace researchers, and I guess one of the questions was to how they see what is the kind of golden decade or golden years of peace research. So quite many of those people and some of you are here today located that in the 80s. And I guess this is maybe also the kind of general image that some people have about that this is the kind of bird that resembles the kind of idea behind peace research. So you have words like rauha, peace, sota, war, väkivalta, violence. And you can still see that there is the development studies are included. And you have also discussion about different of the relationship of peace research to other disciplines, like psychology, social sciences, of course. I'm thinking about whether I can see the international relations. It's not yet there that much. But then when we moved to the 90s, so I really was struggling to get all the words, all the keywords included in the bird. So I had to add another bird or at least another head. And it might be that this is, at this point, maybe the dove is becoming a kind of monster with two heads. Because I tried to place those kind of initial ideas about peace and peace research into the one head. But as you can see, I think this is really, I might have misunderstood something, but I couldn't find a single time the word peace research mentioned in the title of the article, or that the article, based on the title, would somehow be explicitly discussing peace research. Also the word peace, rauha, it is there, but it's replaced by the word conflict. You have, and even more so with turvallisuus, security. New words like identity, sovereignty, nationalism, and then of course what happened in the 90s, the Gulf War, the war on Balkan, and the kind of, then when if you know more about the projects that people had, for example, at Tapri at that time, so it's very understandable that you have the words like alueellistuminen, regionalization or regionalism. A lot of the research is actually, it's no longer about general ideas of peace, but it has a certain geographical location, be it in the Asia or closer. And let me see what I'm missing. So yes, as I mentioned, so there is no word peace research. Also peace education is missing. And all the research about disarmament more or less have disappeared. And this is one of the criticism that I can remember still from the discussions in the next when I entered Tapri. So people were, when I was saying that I'm working at Tapri, so people were asking if I'm studying disarmament or if they are still doing that because they haven't heard anything about that. And I could say that, well, I'm studying identities, I'm studying conflicts, I'm studying environmental issues. And then also, I guess, interestingly for this development peace type of nexus, so you have only few references to development studies or development countries. And also that there is really a lot of research studies related to international relations or international orders, EU. And of course there's a practical answer to that, because the journal, which was called Peace Research, Rauhantutkimus, was renamed Cosmopolis, which was no longer just a journal of peace research or conflict research, but also world politics. And I guess it then also later on when the competing journal, Ulkopolitiikka, Foreign Policy, moved its format to a more kind of this type of general public, targeted to general public. So basically Cosmopolis was the only Finnish journal that could publish scientific refereed articles about world politics. With this image, I was a bit lazy because there was still in the 2000s, so there was a lot of different type of keywords. But I guess the basic idea is that no development studies. The word peace research is mentioned, but not so much. The concept of peace is not too much discussed. It's more about war, and it's very much about EU. And I'm not saying that researching EU and researching peace is incompatible, that they don't fit together. But rather that, of course, I mean, it is maybe, if you look at those articles, so I sometimes find it really difficult to to find the kind of peace research edge from that research. And then the last image, which is different in that terms, that this is based on the actual keywords that the author themselves have attached to the article. So this is no longer so much about my interpretation about what the article is about, but rather how the authors themselves have wanted to define the content of the article. Luckily, the word peace research is there. It might be part of because some special issues, which is always the case with these type of things. So we had a rather huge special issue on COVID-19, which of course makes the case here that it's there. But I guess the three biggest keywords are Finland, foreign policy, and EU. And I find that a bit annoying. But there are also good things. You have climate change, which is I'm all the time referring to the discussions yesterday, but I guess they were so good, and I can relate those discussions to these images that in the journal, those researchers publishing in Cosmopolis clearly have found out that climate change is something that they need to discuss. Some other interesting things that I could pick out from this is that nuclear weapons disarmament, nuclear disarmament, the words reappear. So if someone says that peace researchers at this point of time now they are not doing research about nuclear disarmament, so that's not the case actually. Of course, again, there have been a special issue which somehow makes this argument maybe not that strong, but there were also some individual articles published outside special issues. Let me see. So with this image, I guess it's yeah. I would rather, instead of making any kind of conclusion, so I would leave this as it is here for you to find out your own interpretations. I just want to mention the things that I mentioned already in the beginning. I think traditions are important, but there is no single tradition, but we enter the tradition at different time, from different positions, and we are, in doing that, we are also creating the tradition ourselves. And as I'm still working in the journal, so I guess the last concluding words would be that if you think that something is missing from this image, then you just have to write it and submit your articles. And the other thing I would like to see if you are doing that, so to keep in mind that it is a journal about peace and conflict and world politics. If you think that peace research is important, so try to write that argument also into your articles, because I know in some journals in linguistics, for example, the Journal of Pragmatics, where I published one article, so they have in the guidelines that there has to be a sentence in the article that explains what this article has to do with pragmatism. And I haven't been brave enough yet to include in the instructions for the authors of Cosmopolis that they wouldn't. But it might be the next thing that to include that the article, all the articles should include some kind of idea about how that article relates to peace research and how it makes the world better. Thank you. Yeah, Karim, what do you want us to do? I mean, if you have, obviously, if you have some questions, so I hope you don't. Because I was thinking this was actually the first keynote I was giving. I was supposed to give one earlier, but the whole conference was cancelled. So I did a lot. As Mariana mentioned, so I did a lot of work to prepare that keynote, and then when the whole thing was cancelled, so I thought that I won't do the same work again. I just hope that maybe this would be cancelled. No, I think this was a much better way of doing this. Thank you. Yeah, question.
You can hear me, yes. Okay, thank you so much. This was actually, first of all, a wonderful way of visualizing things. I really enjoyed how you composed this. And I'm Laura Junkaiki, I'm from University of Lapland. And actually this comment, I wanted to say it after every session yesterday, but then I never did. So it also applies to this one, because I think in early August, Yle had released kind of results of some kind of study they had made on Finnish people's sort of expectations, or I can't remember how it was framed, but basically from this study, it turned out that the biggest preoccupation, or what the Finnish people considered important, was peace. This was number one in the category of different things. Then the second one was the health and well-being of my close ones. Third one was personal health and well-being. And fourth was reliable information. And I'm just wondering, because, you know, for me it was a surprise, because my own feeling was that all the Finns have become so totally sort of war crazy, and we have such a militarized media. And so it was very, you know, if we look for hope, it was very hopeful that people actually thought that they are, you know, really needing peace. And now I think the problem is that we who are trying to talk about peace are actually not dominating that peace discourse, because now people understand that to have peace, we need NATO, we need a lot of arms, we need weapons, and that's peace. And so I'm just wondering, first of all, how we could sort of take over the notion of peace, that peace is not about armament, but about disarmament and all these things. And secondly, also with reliable information, I think people probably currently associate it with that we need to be prepared against Russian disinformation. But there's a total absence of discussion, critical discussion about the reliability of our own press and media environment. So that's another challenge, how we expand that understanding of a need for reliable information to also cover our own media. So this was just as a general comment for everything, and also for you. So maybe you can say something about how peace research could take back the notion of peace.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with you, and I don't have an answer. I'm just thinking that it's maybe still an easier thing to do when people are considering peace as an important thing, if we can then somehow, as you said, so change the meaning of peace, or what is understood as peace. It's maybe still an easier solution that I think what has been the problem, that we have been trying to offer peace through our research, and no one is interested about peace because they don't see the relevance in their own everyday life. So clearly there is a momentum now that we should, through our research and also the kind of activism that some of you are doing in the world of internet and social media, to actually enter into this discussion, ask people what do they understand by the word peace, and if they don't have a very good answer, so then you just enter the right answer. What is peace? It's not about arms, it's about disarmament. There is.
Hi. My name is Ronio Järvi. I'm a church historian researching peace movements. And the thing I wanted to say is that, as you asked about the way how the public understand peace as something you must sustain through militarization and all this, I think really good theoretical concept for understanding that is coming from feminist peace research, that is like militarized peace. That the problem is that our peace is militarized. It's something that is induced with fear and with weapons and increasing control, rather than we would dismantle all those different mechanisms that cause fear and all these different kind of problems that people are suffering from, which is the reason why they want to join NATO. So in that sense, that could be one concept that peace research should explore more.
Yes, thank you. And I was also thinking about, of course, I mean here, if you include the word fear, so it can be used for different. It has a different connotations depending on what other concepts you are discussing. And I guess as you mentioned, so using the kind of words that are very easy to understand, like fear and things like that. So then when you put them together, you might, and as you mentioned, so you end up with a conceptions that really help people to understand these things.
One more question?
No, but I would just like to mention that peace can be a discourse of the autocrats and dictators and right-wing populists. You see how they also corrupted the notion of establishing peace, promoting law and order. And on the activist side, for instance, there's this saying that peacefully if we can, violently if we must. For instance, the legitimate argument by Extinction Rebellion, it's not peaceful in some sense. The revolutions that should have happened to topple down dictatorship for resistance, those are not peaceful at all. So we should also be aware about these nuances in discourses, that peace, which is equated to order and now deterrence, it's a highly contested concept now, because we are living in a post-truth world, so we should not anymore just romanticize peace, because because our in the populist moment, it has been captured by right-wing populists.
Yeah, yeah.
Teemu asked, and you have microphone behind you. You can use that, Teemu.
Just a very small remark about the corruption of the words. That we had like this third world movement, the peace movement. We had a campaign against the Finnish membership to EU not from the issues that they normally talk, but about this like global solidarity. And then we were in Estonia with the people there who were discussing this, and then we were thinking about this, campaigning, and then they said you can't use the word solidarity because it was corrupted by the Russian or the Soviet era. Equality, no, don't. It's something that refers to something that doesn't exist. And then I asked, maybe peace, and they were thinking like, yeah, maybe.
Just a slight corrective to Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion is a completely non-violent movement. Yeah. So I'm not sure why you understand why you.
No, it's just how it has been criticized in public media as disruptive and causing public disorder. I was just saying that's why it's a legitimate, protest action.
Right, but civil disobedience. And for example, disrupting traffic and taking this sort of direct action is not the same as violence. So it's non-violent direct action, and I think it's very dangerous to start equating that falsely with violence.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just warning about how they capture the right-wing populists. Yeah, that's why I was saying that there are legitimate protest actions, which would be, it's, about the play on violence, because there are moments that it is necessary, that it is a must, but depending on whose perspective. And many of the usual activist activities in the streets would be disruptive. But for the increasingly conservative population and the populist moment, they would just say that they're creating disorder, and these are like threats to the to the peaceful environment, something like that. So I'm making a distinction and nuances. Of course, I have my own normative take that these are legitimate actions and protests. But since I'm studying also the populist discourses, they could easily equate it to disorder and violent, And those are the things being used by the likes of Trump and other right-wing populists against legitimate democratic protest actions.
Thank you. Very interesting, everything what you said. But words are very strange animals, actually. They I think that with most words, especially so abstract words like peace, you never can find a definition that will be accepted by all. But as far as peace research and peace is concerned, I think that it is important what peace researchers mean with peace, so that so that the praxis of peace researchers in that sense defines the word peace as a perhaps a living together in with cooperative institutions and agreements and regulations which bind all. This is some kind of way of there could be more wordings to say what peace researchers could and should mean with the word. But if we think back in history, so we have had since 19th century peace movement, not perhaps before. Peace movement is after all quite recent phenomenon, and peace research, of course, is a very young sort of discipline or research area. I would call it. I would like to call it a sort of multi sort of purpose sort of research aiming to strengthen or maintain or strengthen peace, and this is perhaps all we can get. We cannot perhaps go further, because we cannot dictate to the world what they mean with peace. There is a very old philosophy saying that if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. And there are very many people who believe that this is the only kind of method that you can secure, that you can guarantee peace. But it is perhaps the challenge. This is just a challenge to peace researchers to discuss this. Is it really so? Or are there more humane ways and more humane institutions to live in peace and resolve conflicts, etc., when there is no peace? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you. I think all the questions and comments have been excellent, and also wanted to sort of remind that in the field of development studies, so the concept of development, we are very critical about the concept of development and progress, because they're linked with modernization and the kind of development as we know it from neoliberal and colonial practices. So, and I think that Mariana Jauhola, for example, has written about how the processes of peace building can be very violent, and when certain types of peace are imposed on populations, so that can be a very violent process as well. So this kind of critical discussion on these concepts is actually, I think, essential, and reclaiming the words for the purposes of peace research, as Laura was suggesting. So, yeah, just we have to clarify what is our stand on these issues and to show that it's been used in various ways for very sort of not so good purposes as well.
Thank you. I think it's time to move on. Thank you, Tina, and thanks for everybody for very good interventions. Okay, this is the last one, and then we have to move to the next phase. But excellent questions so far. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you for your introduction and the discussion here. I don't have a question to you about what you said, but an idea for the future, if it's okay. When now we are meeting the activists and the researchers, could you think that you develop the Cosmopolis to have a column from the activists every now and then, or in every number, which should give a way for the activists to start to read your journal a little bit more, and for the researchers to understand a little bit more about what the activists are doing? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great idea, and maybe Anita, as an editor in the journal, one of the editors can add to that.
Yes, I'm very delighted for the proposals, and we are very warmly welcoming this type of column in Cosmopolis from now on. So please keep this in mind.
Good morning. I just give some instructions for the next sessions, but I won't be saying anything more. We will be dividing to 3 groups and have a dialogue in 3 groups about peace research. We have 3 kind of topics, which is like peace research in everyday life, and then with organizations, and then just in research life. And Karim and Daria and me will be facilitating the dialogue. And as general instructions, it's very important to be a good listener. So try to be a good listener, which means that you look at the people who is speaking and don't interrupt. Let him speak freely. If you don't understand, then ask politely, not with some attitude. And also, when you are listening, just listen and don't think that what is going to be my next good move in this conversation, which is like my sin often. And I suggested to Karim and Daria that we do so in the groups, that we pose a question, and then first people talking in pairs or threesomes about the question, so that everybody really gets to speak. So we'll have to go to some space where there is a bit space. But I think we can find places here. And now we will take, how do you say it in English? Jako 3. Count to 3. Starting from here. 1. Ei kun niin. 2, 3. 1, 2. 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay, So number 1 group goes with Daria somewhere with the everyday life stuff. And then group number 2 with me, and number 3 with Karim. Will somebody from our group then come and give Tiina small review what was talked about? Nee. No.
Okay. We had first the real question was that how activists could support researchers in, and also first was concretely maybe in the work, and then also about how the social impact of research could be seen in activists' work and how to support the social impact issue. We have quite concrete ideas, some, and there is no time to go through them. They are in the group, learned about how to give platforms and do cooperation. I think the most important was the feeling that we had felt very many the last year as quite alone and difficult in many ways, and felt that this kind of gatherings where we can continue to talk and give ideas and different support is very, very important. So I think that was the basic, that people were very happy to sit and talk to each other. So I think that's enough.
So in our group we discussed everyday peace. But of course, as always, the definition itself is problematic. So, and it's not only now. In addition to defining peace, we need also to define what is everyday within peace. So, of course, it's not that easy to do. How to relate this to our everyday lives as researchers, peace researchers, and peace activists. So the discussions were based on that as well. And yeah, so apparently there should be some kind of new methodology into bringing our understandings of peace from the perspective of those like professional peace researchers and peace activists to the wider audience, but also to inform our activities, our research by the knowledge that we can receive from the people in their everyday settings, so how they live together with their differences. So this, I think, what is the most important also comes for the future actions for us. So how to create these platforms that would be platforms of peace activism and platforms of peace research, which are informed by everyday knowledge of people, so how they live together with their differences, and at the same time to translate our knowledge to their knowledge to different contexts, and including public policies as well. Yeah, but sorry, I have to my group, because like I included some my own thoughts as well to this presentation. So, no, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think many of the issues were discussed also in the group 2. And also now that Teemu has kindly uploaded the results from yesterday, so this was actually very much related to that as well. So we had time in the group 2 to discuss the first question, which was about how can peace research be utilized and used better in peace work. And yeah, we actually, I think most of us concluded that in very, very many different ways, and we were discussing some of the practical examples, and everybody was bringing their experience from their own field and research, and there were many practical examples given. But then we also discussed that how actually we should probably not separate this kind of theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge in the way that we often do when we talk about utilizing research results, that some of the ideas that are very much in use in peace movements today or any other social movements working for global justice or other related issues. So some of the slogans that we use in these movements, so they are based on long-term research and engagement where, for example, peace researchers have been engaging with peace movements and learned from them. So it's already transformed into something. And like Marx said, that critical theory without practical intent or content is not critical theory. So it's already sort of incorporated. So perhaps we should not make such big difference between theory and practice, and to say that we are utilizing the knowledge of the movements and the activists all the time in theoretical and research, and the other way around. So somehow make this point also to the general public somehow. That was one of the points, and that it is important to collaborate more closely with, for example, journalists to make these ideas known more widely, and also to sort of de-hierarchize this distinction between theory and practice. Yeah, and yesterday's discussion, so there were some more concrete examples on how then to come together within the peace research and peace activist circles and communities. So if anybody from yesterday's group work wants to say something, that would be, of course, very nice. But yeah, thanks.